Hello everybody. I hope you are doing great. Welcome to your online English lessons again. Today's lesson is very important. It is about one of the basic lessons of English. In today's lesson, we are going to study the simple past of regular verbs and irregular verbs in English. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to recognize and use the simple past of regular verbs and irregular verbs appropriately, correctly. You will also be able to learn the differences between regular verbs and irregular verbs. Let's get started. We are going to start with the simple past of regular verb. But before, let's have a look at the simple past tense. We are going to come back to the past to talk about the simple past. Back to the past. Let's go back to the past then. When do we use the simple past tense? We use the simple past tense to express the idea that an action started and finished at a specific time in the past. We are talking here about finished action. It started and finished at a specific time, alright, in the past. Now, what are some common time expressions we use with the past tense? Of course, we have common expressions, certain time expressions that are always used in the simple past tense. Example, yesterday, last month, last year, last week, ago, in 1980. So these are some common time expressions that you can find in the simple past tense. Let's say events and ideas or incidents. These time expressions indicate the simple past. Now, how do we form the simple past tense of regular verbs? We form the simple past of regular verbs by adding ed to the infinitive of the verb. For example, start, started, kill, killed, jump, jumped. More example. So here we have the verb walk, study, cry, live, and play. So what is the past of the verb walk? Of course, the verb walk is a regular verb. It ends with ed. Study ends with letter Y. Alright, here. Of course, it's different here. We are not going to write just ed. We are going to drop the Y and write IED. Why? Because we have a consonant. Whenever we have a consonant that comes before Y, we drop the Y and we add IED. This is a form in English. Alright? Cry also. It becomes cried. I drop the Y and I add IED. Alright? Whenever I have a consonant. R is a consonant, D is a consonant. So you know that in English we have 5 vowels and the rest of the English alphabet is consonants. So you can come back to the video I shared with you of the English alphabet to refresh your mind about the different English alphabets, let's say the vowels and consonants. The verb live, lived. Now for play, it's different. Play, played. Alright, there is no dropping here of the Y. Why? Because we have a vowel. A is a vowel. Whenever we have a vowel, we don't drop the Y. Alright? We keep the Y and we add ed to the verb. But if we have a consonant, I should drop the Y and I should add IED, like the verb study and cry. Now that seems easy. Yes. But there are some spelling rules. If a verb ends in E, you add D. So there are some verbs that end with E. So if you have the E in the verb already, so you add just D to make the past. For example, agree, agreed. I add D, not ed, because here I have the E in the verb like, liked. So I add D. Escape, escaped. Now, if a verb ends in a vowel and a consonant, the consonant is usually doubled before ed. Example, stop, stopped. I write double P. Why? Because I have a vowel and a consonant. Plan, planned. I add, or let's say double N and ed. Alright, to make the past, because I have vowel and consonant, as I explained. Another thing is that if a verb ends in a consonant and Y, you take off the Y and add IED. The same as I showed you in study and cry. For example, try, tried, carry, carried. You can see here that we drop the Y and we add IED, all right, to the verb to make the past. But if the verb ends in a vowel and Y, you add ed, okay? Like the verb play, played, enjoy, enjoyed. So here I have a vowel, I shouldn't drop the Y, okay? So these are the things that you should remember, you need to remember to write the simple past form of regular verbs correctly. So whenever I have an E, all right? I should add D. Whenever I have consonant, let's say vowel and consonant, I should double the consonant. Whenever I have a consonant and the letter Y, I should drop the Y and add IED. Whenever I have a vowel, I don't drop anything. I just add ED to the verb. These forms must be memorized. Now, another thing about regular verbs. There are 3 different pronunciations for ed. We have 3 sounds that you need to remember, all right? You need to take into consideration. So you have T sound, D sound, and ID sound. Let's discover together. You may notice in the very beginning of this video my pronunciation of certain verbs. For example, like, I don't say liked, I say liked. T sound. Why? Because T sound is used after an unvoiced sound. For example, brushed, laughed, pushed. Okay? So here I don't say pushed or laughed or no. It's brushed, laughed, pushed. Okay? T sound. Now, D sound, when do we use it? After a vowel or voiced sound. Okay? Voice means you can hear it. Played. Alright? Cleaned. Snowed. I can hear the voice. And unvoiced, I can't hear. Alright? ID sound. ID after the sounds T or D. Waited. Painted. Landed. So whenever I have T and D in the verb, I pronounce ID sound. Alright? So waited. Painted. Landed. It's different from played, cleaned, snowed, or brushed, laughed, pushed. So here, you should make the difference between these 3 different pronunciations in regular verbs. Now, guys, you can practice the pronunciation of regular verbs by classifying the following verbs according to their past pronunciation. So you have the verb played, attended, lived, asked, counted, baked, measured, accepted, brushed, dropped, escaped, cooked, killed, listened, loved, afforded, arrested, collected, contacted, planned, decided, defended, opened, demanded, moved, realized, dressed, and cracked. So here you can classify these verbs according to their sound, the sound, what you hear, okay? So you have ed sound, or let's say ed as t, okay? T sound, ed as d sound, and ed as id, all right? When we say ed, it's the ending of my irregular verbs, all right? So t sound verbs, d sounds verbs, and id sounds verbs. So this chart will help you classify the different pronunciations of regular verbs in English. Now guys, this is let's say everything about regular verbs in English, the use of regular verbs in English in the simple past form, of course. Now we're going to move to the irregular verbs, form and use in English. Now the simple past of irregular verbs. We're going to have a look at the form, structure, and we're going to have an exercise of regular and irregular verbs, so you can make the difference between the two. Examples. I saw Maria yesterday. Last Friday, the students took their spelling and vocabulary tests. So here, the underlying words are verbs in the simple past. I saw, this is the verb see. So here, I didn't write seed, I didn't write ed, I changed the form. And this is the irregular verb. Alright? So, irregular verbs are different from regular verbs. In regular verbs, you just add. But in irregular verbs, you change the form of the verb. Took, it's the verb take in the present, in the infinitive form, alright? So it becomes took. They got married 2 years ago. So here got, it's the past form of the verb get. These actions are over, finished. Of course, we are talking about finished actions. Simple past tense. Now, how do we form this simple past tense? Of course, English, as we said in the very beginning, has two types of verbs in the past tense. Regular verbs and irregular verbs. So we are going to look at the following list of past tense verbs. Which verbs are regular and which are irregular? So you have the verb teach. The past is taught. The verb walk. The past is walked. The verb study. The past is studied. The verb give. The past is gave. The verb become. The past is became. The verb cry. The past is cried. The verb live. The past is lived. And the verb do. The past is did. Now taught. Is it regular or irregular? Of course, it is an irregular verb because the infinitive is teach. The verb walk is regular. Walked. T sound. Study. Studied. Regular verb. The verb gave is an irregular verb because the infinitive is give. The verb become, the past is became, irregular verb. The verb cry, the past is cried, so it's regular. Live is also regular. You can see the ending, ed, ended, is irregular. You can now make the difference, guys, between regular and irregular verbs. So, of course, regular verbs end with ed or d, okay? Sound also. So, the verbs that are irregular, the form totally change and they have to be memorized. Of course, I'm going to show you a list of irregular verbs that have to be memorized, have to be remembered. Now, irregular verbs are verbs that don't end with ed. Some irregular verbs have a vowel change in the past tense. Let's discover them. Examples. Simple form, past tense. So you have become, became. This is vowel change, all right? Because O and A are vowels, okay? So become, simple form becomes became, all right? Changes, turns to became in the past. Give, gave. Drive, drove. Forget, forgot. Other irregular verbs have a different kind of change. Examples. Teach, taught. Bring, brought. Leave, left. Hear, heard. Buy, bought. Example, Celia bought a new computer last weekend. So you can see here, guys. So the differences are really various. We have differences in the forms of irregular verbs, and they have to be memorized. Irregular verbs are not the same, all right? They are different changes. So they have to be memorized and remembered to be able to use them in English conversation correctly. You can see that Celia bought a new computer last weekend. Look at the time expression, last weekend. I can't say Celia buys, all right? It's not the present, it's the past, finished action. So the past of buy is bought. And some irregular verbs don't change at all. We have another category of irregular verbs that don't change at all. Examples. Hit, hit, no change. Put, put. Set, set. The children set the table every Sunday. So of course here, guys, this category is different from other verbs. It doesn't change, all right? It never changes, okay? The children set the table last night. No change. So here, for the sentence, the first sentence is in the simple present. The children set the table every Sunday. Simple present. The children set the table last night. Simple past. The only difference here, how do you know that this is simple past? Time expression. We have last night. This helps. This shows. This indicates that this is the simple past and not the simple present. But the verb is the same, no change for the present and past. For regular verbs, simply use the ed form of the verb in a positive sentence. Example, when I was a child, I played the piano. Yes. Donna visited Paris. Okay, so of course you can see the differences here of regular and irregular. This is regular, of course, I add ed to the base verb. Be careful with spelling changes. Of course, we talked about that in the other slides, so let's say sections of the video. For irregular verbs, use the correct past tense form in positive sentences. We use the same form with different subjects. Unfortunately, as I told you, these forms must be memorized. You should remember them. You have to. It's a must. Example, last week, I sent you a letter. So of course here I give the simple past of the verb send, and the verb send is an irregular verb. It's not regular, so the form totally changes. It changes. Last week I sent you a letter. The students had an English exam. They did a great job. The past of have is had. The past of do is did. these forms must be memorized. The forms of irregular verbs, of course. All right. Now we are going to move to negative sentences. How can we form negative sentences in the simple past? So we have did not or didn't. Did not, full form. Didn't, of course, short form. So whenever we have did, it should be followed by infinitive. It is plus base form verb in the infinitive, all right? So the verb must be in the infinitive. Example, I went to work yesterday. So this is the simple past of the verb go, all right? So the affirmative, I went to work. The negative, I didn't go to work yesterday. So here, I use the verb go in the past. This is the affirmative, I went. The past of go is went. But when I use it in the negative form, I use did not plus infinitive. I didn't go, not I didn't went. Whenever you have did, of course did, we use it in the negative and in the interrogative form, question form. So whenever I have did, it's a form in English. It should be followed by an infinitive form of the verb, the base verb. I didn't go to work yesterday. You can see in the picture, the man is sick. Maybe he has a fever. Now, we have an exception of the verb be. The verb be is special in English. Yes. Never use did not or didn't with the verb be. Instead, just use was or were. Yes, plus not. Okay? So, I can't use did with the verb to be. So, in the past form of the verb to be is was or were. Okay? So, this is the only exception in English. An exception, remember. So, I say I wasn't or I weren't. I was not or I were not. In the negative form. Was I? Were I? Was, let's say, were you? Was she? Was he? Okay? So, was or were plus not are the negative form. Let's say it's the negative form of the verb to be in the past. Now, yes, no questions. For yes, no questions, you are going to use did plus subjects plus verb base form infinitive. Okay? So, of course, you are going to use did plus subject plus infinitive. In the negative, we use did plus not plus infinitive of the verb. And in the question, we use did plus subject. Example, did you go to work yesterday? So you have did plus subject plus infinitive. Did you come yesterday? You see, guys, the difference between negative and interrogative form in the simple past. With, of course, regular and irregular verbs. So, of course, this is an irregular verb, the verb go. But when we use the negative, all right, form and interrogative form, we just write the infinitive because we have the verb did that makes the negative and interrogative form. Put the verbs between brackets into the correct form. So we're going to do an exercise together. This is a short story, all right? Passage. Last year, I spent my holiday in Ireland. It be great. I travel around the city by car with 2 friends and we visit lots of interesting places. In the evening, we usually go to a cafe. So I am going to put the verbs between brackets in the simple past. And of course, here I have regular and irregular verbs. Regular verbs followed by ed, all right, plus ed. And irregular verbs, of course, the form totally changes. Last year, I spent my holiday in Ireland. It was great. So you can see the past of spent is spent. The past of be is was, because be is an irregular verb too. I traveled around the city by car with 2 friends and we visited lots of interesting places. In the evenings, we usually went to a cafe. We were. Of course, were is used for the plural and was is used for the singular. And remember, were is also used for the second person singular. We were very lucky with the weather. It didn't rain a lot. Here I have not rain. So whenever I have not, here I have to go, or let's say I have to use did plus not. So it didn't rain a lot. We saw some beautiful rainbows. All right. I have to write the past simple of the verb see, which is saw. I had an amazing holiday. Okay. So you can see, guys, this is the use of the simple past of regular verbs and irregular verbs. All right, the form of regular verbs and irregular verbs in the past. It's different. Regular verbs are totally different from irregular verbs. Irregular verbs have to be memorized, have to be remembered. But how? Here is the list of common irregular verbs. So these are the irregular verbs of English that have to be memorized and have to be remembered. So you have the bare form or the base form, the infinitive form, you have the simple past, and you have the past participle. The past participle is used in other English tenses like simple, let's say, present perfect or past perfect, all right? So, of course, in this video, we are talking about the simple past of regular verbs and irregular verbs. And this list is about irregular verbs that have to be memorized and remembered. So you have to keep in mind this list. You have to have a look at it from time to time to remember the different forms of the past of irregular verbs. Alright guys, thank you very much for your attention. I hope this video is useful for you. Please try to watch it several times to be able to understand the difference between regular verbs and irregular verbs. To be able to make the difference between the 3 pronunciations. So the 3 different pronunciations of regular verbs. T sound, D sound, and ID sound. And of course, you have to take by heart and remember the list of irregular verbs to use the past forms in the correct way. Take a good care of yourself and please feel free to ask me any question. Good luck.